So you've just finished downloading Omega Studio's shiny new, officially released third-person action MOBA, Predecessor. Whether you watched the unveiling live at the Gamescom studios, or maybe you saw one of your favorite streamers boot it up and run a few games, you found yourself intrigued, wanting to dive in and check it out for yourself. You sprinted your way through the tutorial, eager to jump into your first game, only to be found yourself greeted by death, after death, after death. Because let's face it, you are a trash bag, but that's okay. Papa still love you. You find yourself underleveled, constantly the weakest person in the lobby, and none of the fights going your way, or really even making any sense at all. Even if you are able to keep the shambles of your mental strung together, you're undoubtedly feeling lost, confused, and sort of helpless to understand the wealth of information that rests at your fingertips. But worry not, dear gamer, because that is why I'm here today. We are officially unveiling the first course of the We Hit Those University Preducation 101, where together we're going to walk through everything you absolutely need to know as a beginner, dipping your toes into the beautiful game that is Predecessor. So let's go. Hello one and all, and welcome to the official unofficial beginner's guide to Predecessor. My name is Superbeat, and I do live streams and create content for this beautiful game that we call Pred. Now, there is an absolute buttload of stuff to cover and rabbit holes we could dive into, but in the interest of your valuable time, I'm going to try to keep this as concise as I can and really only touch on the truly beginner topics that you need to know as a foundation to start playing. And maybe if this video does well, we can do a intermediate or expert guide in the future. But that being said, this will likely still be a long video, so go ahead and pause now, go grab a snack, go grab some water, and we can dive in. Also, if this video does help you in any way, it would help me a ton if you left a big old thumbs up on the video, or maybe send it to one of your garbage friends. You know who I'm talking about, that needs help. So that tells the YouTube algorithm, the overlords upstairs, that I did a good job. I appreciate you. However, if you watch this and you still have questions, you can always catch me live on Twitch, most days around 7 p.m. If you want to pick my brain, or maybe if you want to squad up for some games, I'm down, you know? I'm also opening up a section in our Discord server dedicated for one-on-one coaching sessions, so if you're interested in taking your game to the next level, there's a link in the description for all that. But without any further ado, I'd like to start with some broad strokes so we can kind of prime the canvas for some finer detailed strokes as we move on. So let's talk first exactly about what the identity of Predecessor is. Predecessor combines the action of ability-based shooter games with the mechanics of MOBAs. So if you have a background in either of these game categories, you'll probably be able to pick up on several of the mechanics throughout the game, such as abilities and cooldowns, minions, towers, neutral objectives, and of course the vast expanse that is itemization. However, if you have no background in either of these types of games, fear not, because we're going to break everything down for you. Firstly, let's cover the objective of a game of Predecessor. The game is a 5v5 matchup of epic heroes with unique abilities that slot into different roles to help their team. The team that is able to push down the lanes and destroy the enemy core the fastest is the winner. There's a wide range of paths to victory, but the most common you'll see is attained via farming minions, killing enemy heroes, and knocking down towers to acquire gold, which allows you to purchase items that makes you stronger. Pred is a bit of a racing game in the sense that the person who acquires the most gold and XP will have the most items and higher base stats, and this typically translates into them being more powerful on the battlefield. Gold and XP equals speed, and you want to be the fastest car on the track, right? So kind of keeping up with this car analogy, because I'm too lazy to come up with anything else, just like there are different kinds of cars, there are different kinds of heroes. You've got tanky pickups, quick mobile coupes, versatile and helpful SUVs, and pure raw muscle cars. And shoot, what are supports? Ambulances, I guess? Each car is similar to the different categories of heroes in Pred, each having benefits and drawbacks, strengths and weaknesses. It's up to you to decide which of those strengths you think best fits your playstyle. Now, I intentionally said a gold and XP lead typically translates into a hero being more powerful because that's not always the case. Not all heroes are created equal. There are several different categories in which a hero can fall into, with most of them kind of dipping into a couple of these categories. Some of these heroes are inherently more powerful and more impactful with a lead than others. Carries, for instance, deal massive damage and have potential to bust a game wide open should they find a lead, as opposed to a support or tank who might not be as individually impactful. Now that we've established what the point of the game is, and how there are different archetypes of characters within a match, we can narrow our scope a little bit and focus on just your team. Each team is composed of 5 roles, each one with a different purpose. Offlaners are found in a 1v1 matchup, with each typical offlaner excelling in sustained bruiser, brawler capabilities, usually with some form of escapability. Offlaners should constantly be providing map pressure, forcing the enemy team to respond or lose towers. They also make great spearheads for team fights in the mid to end game. It's imperative, though, that you don't feed as an offlaner. Oftentimes, it's enough to win a game for your team by simply not dying. You don't have to win, you just have to not lose. Mid laners can share the elusive trait of their offlane neighbors, but typically have extremely hard-hitting abilities that can damage multiple enemies in an area. They're also much easier to kill if you can catch them. A mid laner excels in wave clear, and as such, their jobs are to clear waves and quickly destroy the enemy tower to open the map, while also rotating to allies to help them win fights when they can. ADC, or carry, and support share the duo lane. Your ADC is trying to get strong by any means, whether it's by farming minions, killing champs, or knocking down towers. They're typically great damage dealers via their basic attacks, but they kind of struggle to escape should they find themselves in a bad spot. The support shares the task of trying to help their ADC get big, but sort of in a different manner. They're equal parts responsible for trying to keep their ADC out of hot water, while also trying to set up kills and disrupt the enemy duo. That's a big one. Supports are typically masters of crowd control, but commonly lack any punch to dig themselves out of a hole should they find themselves without allies. The fifth and final role is the jungler, who plays an entirely different game from the other members of the team. A jungler can fit into many different categories, but their core role is to spring unsuspecting traps from their jungle to help their laners win fights and get leads, while also maintaining their own farm inside the jungle, and also to monitor and secure objectives, and also to clear enemy visions. You get the picture. It's a lot. I highly recommend not starting your first game in the jungle, as you will likely benefit from first understanding how the other lanes operate before you can jungle effectively. Okay, we understand the point of the game, and we understand the path to victory and the character archetypes that are involved. Let's narrow our scope even further and talk about some mechanics that are unique to each hero. Don't worry, nothing too crazy. Each character has a special and unique set of abilities, a basic attack and a primary, secondary, alternate, and ultimate ability. While the abilities themselves are unique to each hero chooses an ability to unlock a level 1 and to unlock or level up with consecutive level ups. It's a best practice to unlock all of your abilities first and then choose your best ability to level to max rank before leveling up your other abilities, while also taking levels in your ultimate whenever it's available. All characters come stock with a blink, or a flash as it's sometimes called, which is simply a forward dash that can get your character out of a bad spot or help secure a kill on someone just out of reach. Don't just use this all willy-nilly though, as it totes a hefty 5-minute cooldown, meaning you'll be exposed next time you get caught out if you don't have your blink up before then. Each character also comes equipped with an item found in your 1 slot, either health pots or hunt if you're the jungler. It's also sometimes called smite. More on this later. You get 2 health pots every time you return to base, so don't be stingy with them. Use them when you need them. Your 2 slot is your crest item, which for some reason is completely unmentioned in the tutorial. You absolutely need to know what this is, and you need to know how to use it. But I'm not going to dive too much into builds here, but you choose your crest at the beginning of the match, and each hero sort of has a couple crests that are the best in terms of synergy. So take a look around the community, see what crest players are running on each hero. All of these crest items have a passive component that grants you stats and an active component that is unlocked by leveling up the crest. Each unlock method is different and can be found in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, but upon unlocking the active effect, you can and should get in the early habit of triggering your crest item. Many beginner players completely forget about this, and it neuters your character significantly, so you don't want to develop bad mechanics early on. I find it easiest to rebind this key to left shift if you're on keyboard. That to me is much easier to hit in the heat of combat than it is to hit 2. Like, you're supposed to take your finger off the W key? Yeah, fat chance. Last but not least, and yet another mechanic that is not pointed out in the tutorial, every character spawns in with items called stealth wards. Wards, if you're unfamiliar, are little pins that you can drop anywhere on the map that will give you a sound alert and a visual notification should an enemy trip them. Use them in junctions to spot traffic, or place them near objectives to see when the enemy team is converging to secure. There's also a ward variant known as Sentry that the jungler should take that helps spot and clear enemy wards. Warding on its own is kind of a vast topic, but I do cover the basics in this video up top if you want to check that out after we finish here. The short and sweet version is kind of ward deep to give yourself time to react, and ward as often as you can. Okay, enough about mechanics, let's talk about some lane-specific objectives. In solo lane, offlaners will compete to secure the Cyan buff. This little green fella provides HP, mana, gold, and XP to the victor who secures it. Likewise, across the world, duo lane will compete over gold buff, a much less rewarding buff for some reason that simply provides gold and XP to the one who claims it. Mid lane has a river bug that spawns on either side at the 3rd minute of the match, and every odd minute after, providing a random buff depending on which one spawns. The jungler doesn't have a buff per se. Red people, what's going on? Future Superbeat here. That is incorrect. Junglers absolutely do have buffs. They have red buff and blue buff on either side of the jungle. Blue buff restores your mana regen. It gives you increased mana regen, that is, and increases your damage to non-champion units, so minions, objectives, anything like that. Red buff, on the other hand, just gives you a slow and a DOT on hit. That's all. Back to the video. Bye-bye. But he can help his teammates secure their buffs while denying them from the enemy. There are also 2 global objectives that are the entire team's responsibility to secure: Fangtooth and Orb Prime. Both objectives grant the buff to all living members of the team that secure it. This is where the jungler smite comes into play. It is vital that you perfect the skill of securing objectives with your hunt item. It's a burst of 500 damage or 1000 damage when it's upgraded. Wait for the moment your objective's health bar is going to hit below that threshold and be ready to smite and secure the buff for your team. Fangtooth is the orange dino that, when killed, provides your team up to 3 permanent, unique buffs for each time a team can manage to secure it. Once Fangtooth has been secured a total combined 3 times by either team, the next time it spawns, it will be as a primal Fangtooth, a beefed up version that provides a powerful damage over time buff to the team that secures it. Orb Prime spawns around the 9th minute of the match as Mini Prime. It's kind of a mini boss that, when slain, will grant the person who lands the last hit a powerful buff that strengthens them and nearby allied minions, making them hit harder and tank more damage. At the 20th minute mark of every match, the normal big boy Orb Prime will spawn. This version is tougher and deals more damage, so be sure your team is up to the task before pulling this objective. Orb Prime also grants the buff to your entire team instead of just one single person. So we've talked about the objective of a game, the makeup of teams, and the identity and objective of roles, as well as the ability and mechanics each of the heroes possess. You now know about lanes and warding to keep yourself safe, as well as objectives to contest found all around the map. You're just about ready to dive in, but first I want to talk about some core concepts that you're going to face while playing the game. These are things you're going to have to work on the entirety of your Pred journey, but it's important you understand they exist so you can be aware of how to navigate them. Pred people, what's going on? Future Superbeat here. As I was doing some editing, I kind of realized that I left out a couple core concepts that I think beginners, while they don't have to master, they should absolutely know about. Those 2 being sort of a vague sense of positioning and a vague sense of ganks and what all that entails. So, again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because the video has been long enough already, I think, but ganking, I think, is kind of an art form that is, while it's mostly pertinent to the jungler, I think everybody on the map needs to understand how ganks operate and how you can help to sort of facilitate your team to have the best outcome possible. So the biggest thing to keep in mind when talking about ganks, right? Your jungler needs to just get some kind of value, or whoever it is. Your mid laner can gank too, your off laner can gank too, whatever it is. The main thing to keep in mind is that you have to get value out of it. That doesn't mean kills, right? If you're getting blinks, if you're getting lane prio for your laners so they can kind of dominate the lane in the ensuing minutes, that's enough. That's all you have to do. So the biggest thing you need to learn is how to identify when ganks are on and when they're not. If you don't have, as a baseline rule, again, I said we're not going to dive too much into this because I think it is a bit more of an intermediate concept, but I did feel like you guys should at least know about it. The big thing to remember as a jungler, if you're not, I would say like 75% sure that you're going to get some kind of value in the way of a blink or a kill or an assist or something, don't go. Keep farming, go look at an objective, go sweep for wards. There's so much better things you can do with your time than just failing a gank over and over and over again. Then you end up behind and then everybody loses. Again, obviously this is going to vary from role to role and from character to character, but a good rule of thumb is you want to sort of teeter the edge of being able to get out of a fight and being able to get into a fight if you need to. If a fight breaks out and you're halfway up the lane with no ability to close in, you're kind of hurting your team by not being there, especially if you're an impactful role like a carry or a mage or anything like that. On the other hand, prematurely arriving to fights or being too overextended to the point where your team can't really close in and assist you on time, that is also a flaw that a lot of people make, especially newer players. They'll dive in, they'll get too deep, they get greedy for a kill or whatever, and then the whole team collapses on them before their allies can show up to reinforce. So again, these are just very blanket statements of the concept. You'll definitely learn these as you kind of progress, and maybe in the other guides we can break them down and go maybe scene by scene and gauge them on an individual basis so you guys sort of understand a little more what I'm talking about. But that's all I wanted to say. I'll go ahead and pop out. We'll continue on with the rest of the video. First and foremost, especially if you have little to no background knowledge of this game or MOBAs as a whole, I would mentally prepare yourself to kind of get stomped on for a little bit while things start to fall in place as you learn. Heroes' abilities are going to catch you off guard, you're going to fumble your own abilities, and your positioning and map awareness as a whole is probably going to be a bit noobish. So take a breath, try to analyze what went wrong and how you can prevent it in the future. You're gonna fail a lot, but those failures can either be good things or bad things. It's entirely up to you to decide. Secondly, and kind of in the same vein, I would try to stick to a small rotation of characters as you learn the game, and once you've mastered them, at least to some reasonable level, you can expand your pool until you've learned them all. Playing a hero is actually one of the best ways to learn how they operate, and can even help you understand how to counter their weaknesses when you play against them. Hey, wake up! We're almost done. The last thing I'll cover today is the concept of what I call optionality, which simply put is kind of the concept that bad plays and good plays are all balanced on a razor's edge, and it's up to you to read the variables presented to you in real time and to digest that information before making a play. Good plays can be really good plays until one tiny thing changes, and then all of a sudden the next thing you know, your whole team is dead. And inversely, you could completely write off a play because you're certain it's out of reach, only for something to pop up and change everything. This is a much more advanced concept to see in practice what I mean, and I'll probably end up making a video at some point showing exactly what I mean, but I think we've covered more than enough for today. Well, there you go. You are officially primed and ready to jump into a game of Predecessor without feeling like a chicken running around with your head cut off. I hope this has been informative and helpful, and like I said, if you guys do want me to do an advanced or a sort of expert guide, we can absolutely make that happen. Thanks for being here, as always. Don't forget to enter into the Platinum giveaway, link down below. Happy hunting, and as always, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.